Welcome to our fifth session in the Adult Low Risk Drinking series. Today's session is titled Emerging Frontiers, Understanding the Impact of New Alcohol Products. I'm Sarah Kondrak, and I have the pleasure of hosting the first Project Echo Hub dedicated solely to supporting the behavioral health prevention workforce. There are over 1,400 Echo Hubs across more than 200 countries, and we're proud to bring this innovative model to Ohio as a resource for our prevention community. Thanks for joining us today. This Echo Hub is housed at the Ohio Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health Prevention and Promotion, and we welcome you to visit our website on this slide to learn more about the center's work. The center is funded by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and administered by Ohio University's Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Service in partnership with the Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation, or PIRE. If this is your first time at an ECHO session, welcome. We're constantly growing, and we're a large community, and we're so glad to have you here. At the heart of Project Echo is the philosophy of all teach, all learn. Each session kicks off with a presentation from a subject matter expert on a topic, followed by a community member sharing their work and experiences. What makes Echo so unique and effective is that everyone here brings their own knowledge and experience, and we'll have the opportunity to learn from one another during the discussion in the latter half of the session. So on this slide, we're highlighting some of the key benefits of ECHO. Notably, this model quickly democratizes access to information and expertise. That means that knowledge is shared widely, ensuring everyone, no matter their location or professional network, has access to the latest best practices. ECHO builds workforce capacity by empowering professionals across different sectors with the skills and knowledge they need to make an impact in their communities. So some practical tips for today. Please keep your microphone muted when not speaking. It is the lunch hour on the East Coast, and so understand you may need to turn off your camera. But if so, or if you can, keep it on. Please keep your camera on so that we can connect with one another. This is really a space to build relationships with colleagues. I encourage you to use the chat feature throughout the session, particularly if you'd like to share resources. We will capture all of your comments and resources and post those for others to see in an iEcho in the meeting minutes. Finally, please reach out to Nancy Clough. She is expert in her role if you have any technology questions, and her email is listed here, or you can reach her in the chat. So we have an incredible hub team that's responsible for ensuring that this series meets your needs. You can identify the hub members by looking for the white background and Echo logo. As a hub team, we're committed to creating an inclusive environment and providing all necessary accommodations. We'll start and end this session on time, and we work really hard to make good use of your time. The only recorded part of the session will be the didactic presentation, and this is out of respect for your privacy and the community members that you serve. We also ask our participants to help us create a safe and respectful learning environment by valuing the opinions of your colleagues, using inclusive language, and protecting the privacy of everyone involved by keeping discussions confidential. We encourage you to be open in sharing your experiences, knowing that this is a supportive space. So I have some good news for everyone that I'm happy to share. So in order to participate in this ECHO, in these sessions, each of you had to create an account and a profile in the iECHO platform. Many of you may have noticed that under the profession drop-down menu, preventionist was not an option. It wasn't a title that you could select. So you had to choose a title that most closely aligned with your job. Why that is that Project Echo was originally structured around a medical model, and in the past couple of decades since its implementation, it's expanded to support many other fields such as education, corrections, the government sector. And as I mentioned earlier, we are the first behavioral health prevention hub, so it's been our honor to advocate to add preventionist as a profession. That change finally happened this month, and we would love for our data to reflect all of the preventionists attending our sessions. We want to make this as easy as possible for you. You know, nobody likes figuring out how to update a profile. So, what we can do is if you identify as a preventionist and would like your account updated, please just type the word prevention in the chat right now, and we'll go ahead and get that done for you. So again, if you would like to be known as a preventionist as your job title, please type prevention in the chat and we will get that updated. All right. And finally, I would like to remind you about our upcoming schedule for sessions. We currently have 3 ongoing monthly Echo series, and we're launching a 4th next week. Continuing education credits are offered for each of our live sessions by completing the evaluation that you will find in the chat at the end of the hour. Okay, and with that, I would like to introduce you to our presenter, Faye Callahan. Faye is an agent supervisor for the State of Ohio Division of Liquor Control's Investigative Services section. She has worked in different areas of law enforcement her entire career and has had the privilege of working for the State of Ohio for almost 28 years. Faye started her law enforcement career as a military police officer for the Ohio National Guard and the United States Army, where she served before, during, and after 9/11. After leaving the Army, Faye entered the civilian world working as a uniformed police officer and then quickly moved on to the Ohio Investigative Unit working as a plainclothes enforcement agent. In 2008, she transitioned over to the Division of Liquor Control's Investigative Services section, where she began working as a compliance agent with a heavy focus on the laws pertaining to the alcohol manufacturers and distributors. In February of 2021, she became an agent supervisor where she currently oversees the investigative services compliance agents and liquor permit premises in the northern third of the state of Ohio. Welcome, Faye. We're so excited to learn from all of your experience.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to share my screen here just a moment because I know we're short on time. All righty, just a second. Okay. And let me get this to go the way we need it to. Give me just a second here. All righty, let's try this again. Okay. Let's try that.
Looks good.
Can you see? Okay. All righty. So, well, I'm trying to make it big here. So, hold on a second. I am.
It's perfect on our end.
Okay. All righty. Just a moment. Because it is small. Like, hang on a moment. How about this? Can you see this?
Looks good.
Better? Okay. All righty. So, let me get started here. Okay. Some of the beginning slides that I'm going to go through rather quickly so we can, get to some of the things I really want to hit home with. So today our objectives, we're going to assess the potential implications of new alcohol products on consumer health and society. We're going to analyze competitive environment, emerging market segments. And I added a third one in that we're going to recognize how some new non-alcoholic beverage products may compete with the alcohol industry and affect consumer health, safety, and society. Okay, one thing I wanted to mention, so there's 3 agencies within the state of Ohio that regulate or oversee the alcohol industry. The Division of Liquor Control, that's where the agency I'm with, we regulate and license manufacturers, distributors, transportation, sale of any alcoholic beverage. And of course, we oversee the sale and distribution of spirituous liquor, which is anything above 21% or above 42 proof. Probably hear that often as said as spirits. There's the Liquor Control Commission. They are the adjudication rule makers. They're kind of like our courts, if you will. And then there is the Department of Public Safety's Ohio Investigative Unit. That's where I started my career at in alcohol. Those are your enforcement agents. They are sworn peace officers, so they can oversee, I guess, the administrative laws as well as criminal, where we only do the administrative portion of the law. Okay, so some of the big trends defining 2025, because I wanted to put this out there. Young consumers, especially Gen Z, they're all about global flavors. and inspired flavors. I mean, pickle seltzers, I don't know about that one, but some of the more unique flavors. Personalization is big right now. 42% consumers are seeking something customized, DIY kits, tailored menu choices. Sustainability is non-negotiable, especially with 78% of Gen Z and 62% of millennials. They consider it essential. That includes even the packaging and ethical sourcing. Health and wellness are really driving choices. Currently, consumers are looking for the beverage options that align with their health goals. And the reason I made low sugar and non-alcoholic words bold is because that kind of plays into other parts or some of my other slides. All right, get it to go here. Top cocktail flavors. Now, if you look, you see on the left, lime, orange, lemon. But if you look at the 1 year trending and the 4 year trending, unique flavors like dragon fruit go up 276% in a 4 year growth. Or, I mean, some of the other things, turmeric, marshmallow, things like that. So this was just really for you to look at later on to see some of, the trends, if you will. All right, non-alcoholic cocktails. Alcohol consumers are desiring more alcohol-free drinks. And again, you see I bold that on purpose because it is really a big part of my entire presentation. So it allows them to indulge, or at least they believe it allows them to indulge without the guilt associated with alcohol, especially among Gen Z and millennials. They're drawn to the exciting flavors without the side effects of alcohol. Overall, there's about 19% of menus across the nation that are really pushing the non-alcoholic cocktails, and highest being in fine dining, followed by casual. Just another, I guess, slide to show really some of the fastest growing things here between 1 and 4 years currently and projected for 2028. If you look, a lot of these flavors are for the non-alcoholic products that are growing quickly. Okay, U.S. is to lead 4 billion non-alcoholic beverage growth by 2028. They are projected to. The no alcohol beverage growth in the U.S. is predicted to soar, and the low alcohol volumes are expected to remain broadly statistic. And instead of just reading off of this, one thing I want to mention is when you think of even some of the seltzers that you would see like Truly and White Claw, right? They're technically brewed, okay? People say, oh, it's just like having, sparkling water and things like that, that they're not as bad for you. And of course, the ABV is not as high. Now, the really big trend is something called an RTD product, which I'll get into in a moment. Definitely the fastest growing product on the market currently. So several years ago, I would say maybe 8 to 10, it would have been cider when cider came on the market. Not that it already hadn't been there, but it really, everybody hopped on the cider board. And then everybody hopped on, the seltzer like White Claw and Truly. And now, okay. So there's a sober curious trend, 2020 for 2025, and it varies. The big brands are responding to this as well. So some of the very large brands are coming up with, and we mentioned before, even, Sunny D has, something that's non-alcoholic and alcohol. I mean, some of the larger brands are coming up with things. So the goal really, well-being, physical and mental, the exclusivity and flexibility to transition between alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages, the innovation, and this is where we start getting into, unique waters, if you will. There are now alcohol alternatives, mocktails, as well as THC infused products. So we knew that there was always like the NA beer, NA wine, believe it or not, some of the mocktails that are like, oh, it's like having a margarita without the alcohol, and they're canning these and bottling these. But now there's THC infused products, and I'll get to that in a moment. The National Academy of Sports Medicine did launch a self-guided mindful drinking course. They're really trying to put the holistic lens to alcohol and acknowledging its role in establishing social connections, but it encourages people to drink with intent rather than cutting back entirely and adding a mindful component to their drinking. keeping an eye on my time here. Okay, some of these sober curious trends here. If you look right at the top, CBD infused beverages. All right, and I'll explain that a little bit here in a moment. Um, the non-alcohol mood boosting drinks, you think of some of the, I guess there's tons out there, but it could be anything from even caffeine, right? Some of the caffeine and energy drinks, some of the other things that claim to boost your mood with B vitamins and so on. All right. So, ready to drink cocktails, facts and trends. What is an RTD? That's what we always call it here in the Division of Liquor Control or in general in the alcohol industry. So, it is a flavored, carbonated, gluten free, and usually spirit based alcohol beverage containing the lower calories and lower carb content. They're usually hanging out around 5% ABV. I don't know that I've seen one really that would be like bottled, but they're all lower calorie, lower carb, and it would be very comparable to, say, a White Claw for, the ABV portion of it, the low carb, the being almost like water, but they're spirit based. The marketing strategies is that they are being marketed as something healthier for an alcohol choice, and of course, focusing on sustainability. Popularity is increasing among consumers, especially millennials, with easy availability in all markets. So the market size was valued at 853 million in 23, and it's poised to grow by 2.6 billion by 2032. So that's a very rapid growth. You will all probably notice here shortly, you're going to start to see many brands, just like cider did it, just like people were hopping on the malt seltzers, like like I said, Truly and White Claw as examples. You're going to see a ton of the reputable brands coming out with RTDs. Here's a snapshot, just showing exactly what I just said, the growth, the projected growth rate here between 25 and 2032. So it's a huge market and everybody wants a piece of it. Okay, what is a THC infused beverage? So I want you to know that this has really come on to the Division of Liquor Control's radar, the Ohio Investigative Unit's radar, heavily over the last several years. So the 2018 Farm Bill allowed hemp to be legalized federally because it was not before, so long as the product contains 0.3% of THC by weight. Okay. It's a flavored non-alcoholic beverage, and I'm just going to repeat that. There's no alcohol in them. They're not regulated by the Division of Liquor Control. It's a flavored non-alcoholic beverage brewed to contain the hemp-derived THC, most often with Delta 8 or Delta 9 in it. Consuming the beverages will get you high, just like a cannabis product. In fact, there was a brand that I recall, floral, like flower, but floral, where their advertisement is, have one, makes you feel calm, have two, makes you, feel this. And it's like telling you how many to have to get to whatever feeling that they, like the high feeling. THC products have very little regulation in Ohio compared to alcohol and cannabis. As you know, the Department of Commerce has now the Division of Cannabis Control. THC is not part of that. There's no age limit required to purchase a THC infused product. And when I tell you they're everywhere, a 5-year-old can walk in to a carry out on the corner, open up the cooler where all the pretty looking drinks are, have no idea what it is, and pick it to have mom or dad buy it. They blend in, and there's no age limit for it. And that's any kind of THC product currently in Ohio, whether that be TH infused gummies and vape and some of the other things. Most of the beverages contain around 5 to 10 milligrams of the hemp-derived THC. It's claimed that they're absorbed quicker than an edible, like a gummy bear or something like that. When I said that there was very little to no regulation in Ohio, so the only agency that's actually regulating THC products, if you will, like beverage products, is the Department of Agriculture, and that is only if you're actually manufacturing in Ohio. The problem is a lot of these drinks, they're not being manufactured in Ohio, and then they come into Ohio, and it would take somebody, say, at local law enforcement level, the Ohio Investigative Unit level, to actually take some of these products, whether it be a THC infused drink, or whether it be a gummy, and actually send it to the lab to see, is it really 0.3% or less THC by weight? Some of the products that they're pulling, not beverage so far that I'm aware of at least, but some of the other products that are being sold on the corner, gummy bears, things, or things like that, are way sky high, much higher than the 0.3. So it's very disheartening to know that our youth and has access to that. Also, because I think of a few things, which I'll get to in a second. I'm checking my time here. So mainly the drinks are healthier alternative to alcohol, and that they provide the relaxation, euphoria, wellness benefits without the hangover, right? They claim the products are appealing to those who prefer to avoid smoking or vaping traditional cannabis, but want to enjoy the benefits of THC. By the way, THC, these infused drinks, they will have you fail a drug test, which, although technically marijuana is legalized in Ohio, that is still a policy for any employer can say no, that we don't allow it. So you could have one and maybe not even know that you had one. Many Ohio liquor permit holders, which that's part of this, are selling THC beverages. And I'm not just talking about your grocery stores and carryouts. Okay, I'm talking like your bars and restaurants, especially when you think of your bars. That is terrifying to think of, because when you think about drinking itself, okay, it's been around, well, Prohibition lifted 91, now 92 years ago. When you think about that, when you have your average bartender that, let's say sees, I don't know, 150-pound person walk in the door, they kind of know, like, hey, they might be a 2-drink limit, or, if they're a 100-pound person, maybe a 1 or 2 drink limit, and did they eat? And they kind of know where to cut off. When you're having THC beverages, I mean, how do you even know how to monitor how, say, I would respond to that, or how my body would respond to that as opposed to somebody else? And I also think of things like, if somebody walks into a bar and let's say they have 3 or 4 THC drinks and maybe just one beverage, and they leave and something happens, they get in a terrible crash or they hurt somebody else. And, we do something called tracebacks. Well, the Ohio Investigative Unit does. When there's fatal crashes or extremely horrific, even if there's not a fatality crash where there's alcohol involved, especially with any minor, they want to see where did they get it from. Well, if somebody said, hey, I only sold them 1 drink, alcohol maybe, but what else did you sell them? And who's regulating it? Who says that there's a limit on that? THC infused beverage market is projected to grow significantly over the next decade. An example, there's a distributor in Ohio, which I will not name, where I had to go there, an alcohol distributor. I had to go there for something else. And as soon as I walked in the door, all the advertisements, all the pamphlets, all this stuff was everything related to all these THC drinks. And I was kind of surprised. It is important that the regulations be put in place. Here's some examples. Cycling Frog, Mini Grown Squared, there's tons of them. They are blowing up fast. Floral, that's not in my example, but there's so many. And as you can see, I mean, even if you look at something like the bottom one, the Mini Grown, like if that was in an area in a cooler that is not identifying it as being THC, and it's nowhere near the alcohol because it's not alcohol, like it just looks like something tasty and fun to drink. Okay, so this is new. There was a bill introduced last year that did not make it all the way through by the end of the year. So the same 2 senators that introduced the bill last year introduced Senate Bill 86 here very recently, like in the last, I would say, probably 4 weeks. It's Stephen Huffman and Shane Wilkin. They're the primary sponsors. If passed, it will put regulations in place to generally prohibit the sale of intoxicating hemp products, which I love it. And I hope to God that it goes through, as well as regulate drinkable cannabinoid, I can't say that, products. It's going to add taxes on this and other intoxicating hemp products, and it would significantly change the landscape and projected growth of the THC infused non-alcoholic beverages trend in Ohio, which, like I said, Next time you go to the grocery store or the carryouts, take a gander, start to look, especially the ones that are not commercial. You know, if you have a little carryout, mom and pop owned down the road, you know, some of the distributors that distribute alcohol, when they go in to say, hey, I'm a sales rep, you're going to order, and I'm just giving a random example, let's take your and your, Miller order, and oh, and we're selling these now too. And I kind of compare that to like when Mountain Dew started making an alcoholic Mountain Dew, the sales reps for Mountain Dew were also the sales reps for the alcohol. And I think you're going to see a lot of that here. Why are liquor sales down in Ohio? So, all right, when I say liquor sales, Ohio is a control state. That means the actual state itself um, is who sells spirituous liquor in the state of Ohio to the end consumer through 481 different state agency stores that are privately owned that we give contracts to. Um, our sales are always up. They are important to Ohio because the profits fund a ton of stuff, especially economic development initiatives. It funds some of the programs for substance abuse, especially with alcohol. I mean, there's a ton of things that it does. This last year was the very first time it ever dropped. And even though cumulatively it's up 31% in the last 5 years, I mean, it went down 1.74 billion from 23 to 24, which was the first ever sales decline in Ohio's history. So the question becomes, could sales be down from cannabis becoming legalized in Ohio? Could they be down from lack of regulations of any THC infused products, including drinks? Could they be down because the younger generations are focused on a healthier lifestyle by reducing their alcohol intake? You know, there's so many variables that we don't know yet, and I will be interested to see how that plays out. Uh, so I'm hoping for more regulations, I guess would be my point of that, to really kind of get a handle on it. There's so much I want to say in my 20 minutes, and I know that I can't get to, but I will say that there's a lot of liability in these drinks. Some of the other things I think of is when you look at these THC drinks that have no alcohol in them, to look at them, other than the fact that one product has alcohol in it and one product has THC in it, they really mirror what an RTD is, which is what is growing. So it's like a non-alcoholic RTD that doesn't get you drunk, right? And so then you think about, are people doing that because, hey, if I get pulled over, I don't have alcohol in my breath? I mean, there's so many here. And that's the end of my presentation. I want to thank everybody so much for having me.